Everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about the program's direction. And I especially want to thank you, Mr. Souls, Mr. Solomon, Mr. Blazevich, and the board of directors for the opportunity to lead this endeavor. It's been very rewarding here. It's going to help our district tremendously as we move forward. Before I begin, I do want to say that I will meet you anytime. Call me, email me, Saturday. I don't care to talk about this program. I could probably talk tonight for about 6 hours. I had about 40 some slides that I included, but I cut it down to 12, and I'm going to try to talk in a summary format to give you the gist of what's going on. But I really have a lot more details and information I can share with you, so I'd be happy to talk any other time if you need. Before we begin, I'd also like to point out a few things that I created for our program. If you look at this paperclip packet, I have a brochure which summarizes our program, the marketing plan to bring kids and enroll into our Titan Cyber Academy. If all of this is too much for you, and a parent or anybody just needs a summary, real quick hitter, I got a one-page summary of what our cyber program could very much look like and what it entails. For tonight's presentation, I know that screen is a little bit of a distance for you guys, so I also have this paper handout that we go through slide by slide. And then ultimately, this last handout is the parent-student handbook, what a parent would need to know, what a child would need to know as they enter into the Titan Cyber Academy. And that basically covers the program from A to Z and all the rules and etiquette and different things like that. But looking at this first slide, I want you to look at it and I want you to tell me it's ugly, because it is. And quite frankly, this slide is the perfect picture of my brain a month and a half ago when Mr. Soul said, you're going to lead the Titan Cyber Academy and we need you to figure out the direction we're going. My head started spinning. I started thinking of a million things, what direction we're going to go, and it felt like I had to move at 100 miles an hour. And so I thought that was the perfect picture and way to start where we're at. However, after a month and a half, I feel pretty good about my knowledge of the program. Oh, really? Come on, buddy. All right. So to do this, I had to take a scientific approach. And that is exactly what I did. I looked at our current WMCA program. That's our cyber program. I talked to just about everybody who's enrolled. I tried to, at least anyway. I called them. I met with people face to face. I talked on the phone. I talked on Teams. I then looked at people who are West Mifflin residents but go to outside cyber schools. I called as many as I could. Talked to a couple of them in face to face and on the phone as well. And I got a lot of good feedback. I then tried to look at all the student needs that I'm aware of as a principal who served in all three buildings, or I should say all three levels, and took everything I know and compiled what I know because my doctorate I actually completed online. So I have a lot of experience, but I wanted to know what the parents felt like, what the kids felt like. So I spent hours and days and weeks talking to people and getting feedback. And all that led to where I think the future of WMCA can go, which I'd like to say is the new TCA, Titan Cyber Academy and Design Pathway. So let's start with the current WMCA. Please tell me my laser. Okay, at least my laser's working. We have 43 students, and the majority of them are high school students. As you can see, there's 32. There's some bright spots. One student has a GPA of 4.083, which tells me immediately they're taking some accelerated honors courses because they have the weighted GPA. But we also have a couple students with a 0. Now, I know that's not good, but it's an asynchronous model. The model we have is limited in how it reaches students. It's great. It has some good points. For example, a high school student who wants to work. They can do their work independently and when they can fit it in. I talked to one of the students who made our senior presentation online with us, And she talked about how she works a lot, and she's glad that this model, she was able to do some work on her own on weekends when she could. However, because this model is so limited, it's leading to this problem, as you guys are well aware of as a school board. $1.6 million we're spending right now to send kids who live in West Mifflin to outside cyber schools. PA Cyber, PALPS, Pennsylvania Leadership Cyber School, REACH, there's our three biggest competitors. There's 99 students, if you look at this bottom line. 81 regular ed students at about $12.5 a student, and 18 special needs students. And special needs students' tuition is about $25,000 for a grand total right now of 1.6. We're looking at K through 6. We have 39 regular ed, 5 special needs, over 600,000. K through 8, see the numbers, over 1 million. And guys, that's not even the biggest problem. If we don't act now and revamp this program, it could get worse. This next slide here, where I'm looking at, you have a handout, shows what I'm talking about. We currently have over 600 students who attend West Mifflin schools, brick and mortar, but in a remote setting, which means they're staying home and working from home. Over 600. I surveyed them, well, as many as I can get in touch with. I had 428 of their emails, so I sent out a survey with information. I wanted their feedback. I learned the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. I only got back 103. But what's concerning is look at that ratio. 44 out of the 103 I got back said they want to be remote next year. If those 44 don't like our program and decide to go to PA Cyber, multiply that by 12.5 and throw in a few extra for special needs students, we're looking at a bigger funding issue with their tuition. So then I said, what else can I research? I talked to neighboring cyber principals. I talked to Dr. Cremon at NA, Jody Merwin at TJ. I talked to Still Valley. I talked to McKeesport, Woodland Hills. I talked to anyone I could find and get a hold of, to be honest with you. All of them are experiencing some issues, but no one is experiencing a high tuition rate and an outside flux like that, like we are having, okay? However, they're all looking at revamping their program. In fact, I talked to a lot of school districts that are in a situation where they want to make it better for next year because they're worried this could happen. They're looking at full-time staff. They're looking at how to improve the curriculum. They're looking at the big thing, live sessions. Live sessions, sorry, that didn't go through. I then said, well, let's look at the big three, PA Cyber, REACH, and PALPS. And basically, I learned everything there is to learn about them, from A to Z. What they offer, from activities to classes, what they offer when you enroll, which you'd be amazed. I don't know if you know, but there's one that offers $50 a month to use for your internet. That's Agora. There's other ones out there that their enrollment packages are unreal. I talked to some of our parents who said, Brian, I felt like I hit the lottery. I signed up for PA Cyber. I received all these novels, a laptop, a printer, headphones, everything you could think of. To be honest with you, it was great. And I said, wow, okay, I get it. What else they offer, though, and that's what our model lacks right now. It's right here. 3 models of instruction, asynchronous and gathered. Synchronous. We kind of do when the teachers go live, but that's a different bird. We're talking about our cyber program. And blending. Oh, and then also right here, special needs support. They actively market that they can support 504, IEP, GIEP, students who need some Title I support, students who need speech. We haven't actively marketed that, even though we could. That's going to change. So I also have the feedback from our West Mifflin parents, and I feel like that was one of the most important ones. I talked to so many who said, you know what, I consider coming back if it's equal or better. I really felt bad leaving, but I didn't want asynchronous. I didn't want to take a chance on what was going on with Schoology and being in and out and different things like that. I said, okay, good, keep us in mind. We're making some progress here. They all talked about this right here, engagement, in-person instruction or virtual instruction, live support from a teacher. They all talked about how they felt their schools were responsive to their students' needs. They all talked about how when they attended these outside cyber schools, they felt like they were part of the culture. They felt like the teachers knew them even though they were on a computer. They all talked about how there's so many activities, there's so many things to do, and the different offerings, and then schedule instruction. Okay, good. I got a good knowledge base now. I know what the competitors are doing. I know what our outside neighbors are doing. I know what our people want. So, the next is design phase. I'm starting with our goals. Real simply, I'll sum up these 5 statements for you real simple. Number 1, we want a program that can educate all students, A-L-L capitals. And in our March Madness, that's all with a capital A, baby. But anyway, special needs students right now do not feel they can really do well in our educational cyber model. That can change, and we needed to change, and it will. We have to offer parent support. All these cyber programs that I talked about have tons of parent engagement and tons of parent workshops to help their child, because quite frankly, it's a whole new ballgame for parents. And you guys know, I know from serving as a principal, you know from the community, there's a lot of parents who are struggling right now with this, and it's a hard adjustment. And then on the right, I summed up, talking real, we want to bring those students back. Those 99 students, sure, it's going to be a hard game. They're in love with what they're doing, but we want to offer a program that's even better. We definitely want to keep more from leaving. I showed you that 44 out of the 100. And we definitely, and this is me personally, I don't want to do this and not have this as my goal or standard, but to be the best out there in the cyber educational field. So basically, to do that, here's what we need to do. Our future directions. I might take a little longer on this slide, but trust me, I won't take too much longer after this. Academically, we need to offer the 3 models like the outside cybers do. We can easily. We've got to have the asynchronous because it's important for certain students. We don't want to lose the current 43 kids that we have. We're okay with our model. And then the synchronous and blended. So, if I can sum up, I'll go to this one real quick. I'm going to come back to the slide now. Asynchronous, totally independent. Synchronous, basically it's like a virtual school day. You want to learn math, we have a live teacher teaching math at 9 o'clock, English at 10, social studies at 11, science at 2, things like that. That's live, synchronous. And then blended. When I talk to a lot of parents, what they really like is the blended model. The majority of them said that. They want the live instruction, but we're all human, and we know that for a kid, and even an adult, sitting in front of a computer from 9 to 3 is not necessarily easy to do. So the blended model, having some asynchronous, some live, it seems ideal, all right? However, I want to point to this green model right there, the hybrid option. One thing that we can offer that TA Cyber cannot is the hybrid option. And we have this now, but it's not marketed. It's not publicized. Students can come into our schools if you really want to be cyber, but you really want to be an orchestra. The middle school has 8th grade orchestra at 1 o'clock. Come on in. Do the 8th grade orchestra and participate in our hybrid model. We'll let you come in, do 8th grade orchestra, and I'm using that as an example. And then you can leave. We can bus you one way easily without changing anything. Or you're a kindergarten mom and you say, you know what, I don't really want to send my child the whole day. I'm very comfortable with cyber learning, but I'm worried that I cannot teach them. You guys know what I'm going to say. The new math. Common Core math. Oh no. You know what? We do Common Core math at Claire Barton at 1:30 to 2:45 for kindergarten. Why don't you bring them in at 1:30? You can do everything else, and we'll call it the hybrid model. And now we have an advantage that no one else has. Okay? When you think of our new program, and this I learned from the parents, they don't want to think of themselves as just a cyber kid who couldn't make it socially, so they entered cyber school. That's not what the new cyber is about, guys. Not at all. The new cyber is about all this stuff I'm going to show you. These models, interaction. Check out this for academic and social engagement. Oh, sorry about that. I'm getting a little excited. The old football coach will be coming out again. Small group instruction. I will say what Shauna Baker's doing down there in the 4th and 5th grade with her win time is excellent. Win. What I need. What does every child need? We got an hour in the sample models that I have here in that handout. Built in for small group support. We can enrich learners, we can remediate learners, we can do a little both. They can work in small groups. You can bounce from one group to another on the teams. It's outstanding all the things you can do. That's built into every model I have here. Later I'm going to show you a good, better, best, but every one I can do that. Specials and electives we can offer. Kid Connects. This is counselor driven. In a real school, and by real I mean brick and mortar. In a brick and mortar school, especially in elementary, but in high school and middle school, the counselor meets with students. They talk about high school, what's your plan? What are you thinking? Elementary school, how do we treat friends? You know, but they have these discussions. These discussions can and should exist in cyberland too. And they do in the outside schools, and they need to happen here, and they will with Kid Connects. Extracurricular activities. Of course, we can market that if you go to TCA, you can play on the football team, the basketball team, the swim team. Okay, that's good, but we need to put it out there and make sure they feel involved. And technically, a kid from an outside cyber can too. However, are they going to feel comfortable? You're going to feel comfortable if you're with your cohort. You go to class with 10 sophomores who are in TCA, and you're talking about going to the homecoming dance. You're going to feel better. Your 10 friends and 10 buddies are going with you. And that's the relationship, the culture we want to build, where this TCA is just a 5th school. We have 4, high school, middle school, Claremont, and Holmesville. We have 5 TCA. It's a 5th school. It's part of the activities too, and we'll share the resources. Extracurricular activities. This is one of my favorites. I got this idea. You guys ever go to Lowe's or Home Depot on a Saturday morning? They got the kids' workshops, right? They're all there having fun, banging hammers and nails. And then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I know for a fact, because of the elementary rotation schedule, Miss Cummings, the Claremont art teacher, has an extra period there on day 4. I was like, on day 4, I can have her doing some play. Stuff they don't usually do in elementary school, but she could do a clay workshop. For anyone, really. Sign on, participate. And then on Fridays, I have built into the schedule, and I'm not going to take total credit for this. The outside cybers do things like this too. They do workshops, they do parent seminars, they do field trips, virtual field trips, but that's when we'll fit it in. We'll fit it into our extracurricular time on Friday. If it's high school, maybe we can plan a career speaker. If it's middle school, maybe we can do an origami workshop where they do all that fancy folding things. Just neat things that get the kids engaged. Get them talking to other kids socially on the online work. You know, if the pandemic ends and we do something in person, then we can. And as the principal or as the teachers, we would take part in leading that and making it happen and planning on structured extracurricular time. But that's some of the gaps we don't have, and that's what the outside people are telling you we need. Honors and recognition, sure, they're full. Why would one school give out honor roll certificates and not the other? We're doing it too. SAC and mental health services. Whether you're online or in person, you can get the same SAC mental health services as anyone else. Just because you're in PCA doesn't mean you can't talk to FBR or Turtle Creek just like any other, but we're going to make that happen. And the counselors can be ready and available, just like we said with Kid Connects. But if someone needs support, they're available there too. Family engagement, and this is also part of what I believe is an important and critical marketing plan to get the word out, and that's a social media blitz of everything we do with virtual, live opportunities, just action. Guys, you saw how popular the little storybook thing was. People are still talking about the stores are so cool, Mr. P, and this and that. But every time we post something cool that's going on in our schools, and this is for brick and mortar too, you know, everybody sees it, they like it, and then they share it with one person. Then word gets out, and that's basically what P.S. Cyber is doing in the other schools. They're sharing their things and putting it out there. We need to too, and we can easily. and that's part of the marketing. In fact, as soon as Mr. Souls gives me the okay, I got a Facebook page ready to go, tied with Instagram, and there's another one that I don't even know, to be honest with you, but they're connected now. So if I make one post, it can go to all three, which is really cool. Live support, special needs instruction. I've witnessed Mr. Reed and Claire Barton give DSL instruction to kids at home. It can easily be done. I've witnessed Miss Missouri, the speech teacher, give great speech lessons to kids at home. All this can easily be done and intertwined in our program so that we can go back to our goal, all students' needs. Oh, the framework, I talked about that. PCA will lead the way. Here's some of the advantages we have that our competitors can't say. We talked about the hybrid option, the ability to participate in all extracurricular activities and feel comfortable. Classes with West Mifflin students taught by West Mifflin faculty with a Pennsylvania Standards aligned curriculum. What I suggest we do is in the best model that I'm going to present, we can talk about an easy transition between cyber and West Mifflin brick and mortar. Okay? It can be done with our Schoology. It can even be done with our Ingenuity account that we currently use for cyber, where basically it's a series of online lessons and videos and resources. It's actually an outstanding resource. And when I talk to NA, what they do is they use their curriculum as their guide, but they supplement it with Ingenuity at times when they need to, and when it helps, and at times when it's better. We can offer breakfast and lunch. If every kid in the West Mifflin School District can get a free lunch and a free breakfast, and we're going to include that in our fifth school, the Titan Cyber Academy, and I've already spoken with Janae about how it can be done with really no conflict, easy to do. And I think it's a big thing for our kids, and you know, it's the right thing to do. And then ultimately, the West Mifflin Area School District diploma. You put in a lot of work, you work hard. We don't want to see our kids who live here with an outside diploma. We want to see them with a WM diploma. So what are some of the costs of these ideas? So I have, to be honest with you, I can create a model that works in any circumstance you give me that has what I consider the 3 key elements. Live support, some live instruction, and communication with families. However, the best model that I can see is right here, elementary, 1 teacher for each grade level. You have a specific grade, 5th grade teacher who works the 5th grade classroom, just like you would in a real brick and mortar school. Okay? I consider that the best. An estimated max cost if you have 6 teachers at max step with PZers and all those benefits and everything else, it's around $900,000. Okay? They will be doing a 100% guaranteed Schoology West Mifflin curriculum. All right, that's the best. If you want to talk, hey, Dr. P, maybe not the best, but what's still, you have a Jiffy Lube or Valvoline, whatever, they say you can pick your oil, good, better, best. I don't know if I want best, what's better. All right, better is taking maybe a grade span. So you have 1 homeroom teacher with 4th and 5th grade, or 1 homeroom teacher with K1 and 2, depending on your numbers, depending on enrollment, both places. Okay, and obviously that cost would go down. And that would be a situation where we probably use a little bit of Schoology and Ingenuity based on the planning and the needs. What's the best model in secondary? Well, the best model would be 4 content teachers, science, English, math, social studies, who can spend full time on that. That for teachers at max with PZers and everything would be around 500, okay? But we could also go to a part-time model with what I consider better, best, better, good. And that's where in your daily schedule, you're working in online classes and online support. And then all of these models can work in the blended, where we have some synchronous, some asynchronous, and hybrid, all right? Just a reminder, in case those numbers scared you, and they could work anywhere from the best down to good. Good would be 1 teacher in elementary, covering that, which is possible. 1.6 on outside, and potential 530 on that survey. So I mentioned enrollment package and how happy that mom was when she told me how she felt that she hit the water getting on the books. I feel like any student who's at home in PCA, if you're in AP English, you should have the AP English novels that the kids in brick and mortar are reading, so that you don't have to read them on a computer. If the district has already bought the novels, then we should have the novels for the kids at home as well. Same thing with the math books. If they're using the Go Math workbook in school, brick and mortar, the kid at home, PCA should have the Go Math workbook as well. And that's what I envision. I truly think that 21st century, I don't think our kids are at the point where they need to be all digital yet. I know I value it, but I know that the parents value it, that they want some paperwork, some book work, some digital work. That's the future, that's their life. So our package includes a laptop, which we have for every kid anyway. T-shirt, make it fun, make it part of that culture. A scanner, printer, these are so minimal now, they're about the size of my forearm. For big packet pickups, and people coming up for resources, you want to print it, you can print it and scan it back to me. A minimal cost, $300 above what we normally pay for a regular kid. And like I said, it's all part of that package because our competition is doing it. But I think to be successful, we have to equip the kids to be successful. So in conclusion, let's talk a little bit about Schoology. Schoology is a game changer. Doing virtual, live lessons, it's all part of an educational shift that our teachers are adapting to, whether they're brick and mortar or side. We have to keep it because it helps us for pandemic issues. It helps us for a snow day. If the schools don't have to cancel school, we can do a flexible instructional day and say we're working remotely. But if we don't have that system, we can't. And it's all part of the 21st century skills. Eventually we're at a point where teachers, even in brick and mortar, may not be passing out a worksheet, but they'll say, hey, tonight your homework is worksheet 5. You can find it in the yellow folder on Schoology. And like I said, flexibility, even though I presented a better model, a best model, and even a good model in elementary, basically you can look at it 6, 3, and 1, teacher-wise. We can be very flexible and adapt to our needs and adapt to enrollment and make it happen. And like I said, if you want to talk, email, whatever you want to do, I'm here. And I want to end with this picture. So I started with that crazy, chaotic picture. My head was spinning. I can tell you now, after a month and a half, it's not. This is the picture I want you to leave with. A very happy graduate, a group of kids, even though it's online, they can still come together, virtual or even in person. If there's no pandemic. Working at the laptop, having fun, organized, neat, and a vision for the future. All right? Any questions?
Take COVID out of the picture. In your opinion, why do kids go to cyber school? Why do they come out of the brick and mortar to go to cyber?
So it's happening. Even pre-COVID, we had kids going to outside cybers. And I think it's all just based on needs, maybe the family situation. We look at some high school kids who want to work, so they pick cyber. Or some certain families still have medical issues that don't really want to go to school or deal with. I think it's some social at times, and that's why it's important to have some social activities in their embedded in the curriculum. But I do feel, based on that survey, those 44 people that said they want to go remote next year, they didn't necessarily get to tell me why, all right? But I'm willing to bet that that's going to continue even without COVID as we move forward, because there's all kinds of different issues that drive people to do it. And I think a lot of it is just their individual person, and the way it is. I had in the feedback, I shared it with the building principals. The feedback ranged everywhere from we can't stand this to this is the first time my child has ever done well in school. And I think this COVID has changed everything. As we know, in the larger society, there's going to be businesses that don't run office space anymore. But now there's a lot of kids who kind of fell in love with this model and working at home and doing their thing and taking a lunch break kind of at their house. And so I think that is part of the reason. I think it's just a new desire for people to not have to follow the same structure and get what they need and feel comfortable, for whatever reason.
I appreciate enthusiasm. This is a great job.
Hey, thanks.
And it looks great, but I'm wondering what we can do better at the brick and mortar to keep the kids there. And nothing against cyber school at all, but
right.
I'm wondering if Westwood was doing something, or all schools are doing something that's driving kids to go to cyber school. I think kids need interaction with other kids, and that's what I really like in your presentation.
So either way, we can get it.
Thank you.
No problem.
I just want to say I'm very appreciative of the sincere enthusiasm you had and Mr. Stoll selecting you. I mean, this is something we're taking very seriously, so we're putting one of our best principals out there
Thank you.
to head it up and just seeing what you, the work you've done in the month and a half and beyond impressed.
Thanks.
And I think that you definitely, you're a principal of the next generation type of person, you know what I mean? And I think with the code stuff, that's the world that we live in now where some parents might say, okay, my kid does do better at school, and we need to take that as seriously as the kids that are sitting in the classroom. And I look forward to the future that you're building here, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a lot of good feedback about how their child just fit in. It works for them, you know?
We do appreciate Dr. Plichta and all the hard work and the time that he's put into this. We do sincerely believe this is the future of public education, and we have to provide a service to those students in order to keep ourselves employable and operational. So we do appreciate all the time he put in. Also, Mr. Solomon, who worked alongside Dr. Plichta on a lot of this as well, with the weekly meetings and so forth, to make sure that we were getting what we want. So between both of them, we thank all the efforts.
What are your time, what do you, I guess you want to get going with this for next year?
Yes, because that is a good point. Right now, I know that PA Cyber is always already asking parents to make a commitment. It's like the verbal commitment for an athlete, not the letter of intent to decide, but they're asking for that verbal commitment for next year already. So what I want to say, the sooner the better. We don't want to wait until June. We definitely need to be, I say late April, on the ground running with this model that we can sell and properly. In reality, we can already start. There's still some months. Not everything is nailed down.
And you have good, better, best, and obviously, we want the best, but what do you want, what do you recommend?
I recommend the best. I feel that if we have one teacher for grade on the cycle, it's almost like, when I talked to the parents, they said if it's equal or better, I'll come back. And I feel like if they have that kind of attention, we can get it done.
Yeah, I don't want to do it,
I know,
just to
I know,
get by.
I know. I don't either, we're doing the money that we can, like I said, I don't want to just get a couple back and say, oh, yeah, we say 200 grand. I want to get them all back, get them at the home, and tell them, we got the best program. Because I already have people calling me, oh, what are you going to do? Why are you guys changing? Brown's not just talk to you all, I wasn't. And there's a bunch of different schools that talk about this. So, that would be my recommendation to go to the rest and put some full-time staff in there. That's what they did. And they have, well, obviously, they have some help resources, but they have over 1,000 students in their program, and they're really, really good quality.
Thank you very much.
Ramp up time, because like, maybe the first year, you don't want to have one teacher for 3 third graders. So how, what would the transition period be to move around to the program?
You're absolutely right, and that's why having a grade span is helpful, because if we have 3 third graders and 2 second graders, then we probably just work with one homeroom teacher for those 5. But ultimately, I would hope to recruit more and get to a point where we have a more serviceable number that balances the need for the teacher attention to, resources as well. But the ramp up time for that is we have to, well, I can adjust it on the fly. To be honest with you, I can adjust it in one day on the computer and make it happen curriculum-wise and everything there. But we would probably need to have a good model, a good idea of enrollment on June, maybe July.
And it's also finding the right teacher, because some teachers are so much better in person than they are remotely.
You're absolutely right. We have to have people who are not afraid. From my expectation for a teacher coming into the Cyber Academy, it has to be someone who loves their job, who has some life, who's not afraid to put their face on camera. What's the new, I would say the younger generation, because I'm old now, they're used to that, they post everything on Facebook. But there's supposedly that folks who are in the older generation like me, or afraid to do. So it's basically, we have that desire to, number one, help a kid do the best they can, whether it's on or off.
What's your, so you have a very short runway, it sounds like, because of June's your date, that's pretty short. And I guess other than social media, what are some of your other methods to reach out to these different families? And would it just be less than employment, or would it be, can it be people not in less than employment?
You know, that's such a good point, because I was actually thinking about that. If we got to the point where we could retreat from outside the district, I don't know if we're allowed or not, we could look into that. But I actually think that my best method, I guess it shows I haven't been around a lot. A lot of the people I call, I had their kids or someone they had, or doing somehow in the community. Also, I would go grassroots and make phone calls. I would do social media, making sure, like Mr. Souls does his weekly phone calls, that people are aware of our program. Because I've also had a couple people in the last month that withdrew to go to PA Cyber, and I called them immediately. Because, you know, they can kind of do it without telling anyone. You can decide today, well, PA Cyber is a waiting list, actually, which you can decide, enter, and the only way you find out is when the PA Cyber sends a request for records. So it can't be secretive. I would get that request, and I would call, hey, do you know we have a cyber program? I will try my best, although I know our option is limited because they synchronous.
Yeah, I just,
I didn't know.
I know, I got a, and maybe other people here did too, get a postcard saying, hey, I forget what cyber program it was, but they promise you a whole litany of stuff. And essentially sign up today, you'll get all this fun stuff, and you'll get flexibility in your life. And
So we could also go that route. I'm open to any suggestions, anything that'll help.
I mean, I guess my suggestion would be for you to think about additional resources to help with communication and strategy around how to communicate, because this is brand new. People aren't going to know what this means. They're not going to understand it. And I think some of the lift to get it off the ground is going to be educating people and marketing it to the world to make sure people understand it. So I think about that in your resource model, to make sure that we have the right support for marketing communication. I think that would be important because it is brand new. Nobody's going to, and then differentiate yourself from the other cyber academies that are out there, why we're different, making sure to focus on that. And then how is this different from our already existing online learning?
Right.
Because people won't know that this is new, holistically different, and you have all these other advantages.
So it's almost like if we're sort of summed up a few of those slides that I had about how we use the grade when we have it together. So,
And information sessions, like you said, and they could be virtual too. They
Yeah.
don't have to do anything, in person. But I think that you have a short runway, and those are some of the things that I haven't, I'm sure you've thought about. Those are just my questions of like, boy, you get the word out real fast, and how are you going to do that? And you might need some help.
I was actually thinking of on Facebook Live, videoing the presentation, this one, the long one that I have too, and just letting it be on it, because if you're a parent who's interested, that long one doesn't bother you. You want to know as many details as you can.
I think one other thing too, and then Steve's going to present a little bit, but making sure that our technology supports what you're trying to do. And if it doesn't, what do you need? And making sure that we understand that, hey, if we're going to invest in this, and we thought we were going to give you Schoology, but we really can't. We should know that now. If we have to look at other products or other capabilities, technical speaking capabilities, then those tools are critical for any kind of education online. Let's find out what's the best of the best of what you need to meet your requirements to support this group, and let us know how we can help you, invest in something that makes sense.
Good point. Because I was concerned about Schoology for elementary, but we had our ups and downs with it this year. But Mr. Sullivan and I were on a webinar with one of the directors of Schoology, and they actually are unveiling an elementary model or template for next year. And we said, good, because this one wasn't working. So we've been looking at that a little bit. The engineering isn't bad, that's. I was telling Mr. Soul some myths about how teachers can't work with it. We could break down those walls.
And that's where talking to peers, who are really successful, Benny's really successful. Hey, can I come visit? Can I see what you're using from a technical? I'm sure I'd love to come along with you and take notes, or somebody come along and figure it out with you, because, that is almost just as critical as the curriculum, because if you can't connect, how can you learn? And that's my big reservation, and I think that was one of our bigger challenges, moving to remote, having to do it in an emergency, the pandemic, and all that stuff is not fun. But if you could show parents in June the experience, this is what your students are going to experience. That's a huge selling point, especially if it's 1 year ahead of what they're able to do today. And so I know as a parent, I want to see it before I buy it, kind of thing. So that's just some things you need to think about. I think it's a really great presentation. You've done a ton of work, and we really do appreciate it.
I have a question, maybe for Chris, more from a legal end. So let's say a kid who lives in the Keysport wants to come here, is that kid allowed to participate in some of these other activities? Like coming into school, the band, football, swimming, because they don't physically live in West Mifflin, is there a limitation for the kids who are outside?
So that's something I know, like Seneca Valley was kind of in the forefront of this, and a lot of places bought that program and you basically run their curriculum. So if we would be that successful, where other districts, neighboring districts wanted to send a student to our district, they obviously have to pay to do that, but we could certainly work out something. The only hiccup I see is sports. I don't think WPAL is going to permit that. But I think, coming in for an art class or coming in for a student class, that's permissible. I mean, I don't know what our policy is, but any school district in Pennsylvania can have a student come in and pay tuition. So they're basically a tuition-based student. They can come here and use our facilities. They can use our classroom. The issue would be in the extracurricular, not so much on the elementary and middle school level, but when we get into sports, the WPL probably isn't going to let the students not school here because they don't want to deal with recruitment.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, we're not a for-profit trying to get money. We're for students who want to try to get the best program out there. For those in West Mifflin and Whitaker and the Duquesne students, but if some kids from elsewhere want to come here because he did such a great job bringing the program, come on in,
A lot of people offer that, Mr. Marshall, other people that have summer programs allow other districts.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Dr.
All right.
Thank you
thanks,
very
Doc.
much.
Thank you.
Dr. Plichta, you did a lot of work, and it definitely should. Thank you.
Thank you.